Here she is, Mr. Vice President. We'll get some answers. Everyone, quiet. Welcome, Flight Engineer Melinda Tate. I'd like to introduce you to the Vice President of the United States, our Director of Homeland Security, as well as several members of our agency's ranks, as well as your own delegate from NASA. They will be joining us during this interview. I am Agent Elizabeth Keynes of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and I don't care who you are. I just want to go home. Well, Tate, I'm afraid you won't be able to return to your loved ones until we learned of what occurred during your last mission. Do you understand? You already know what happened. They all died. What else is there? They did not simply die, Tate. They are missing in action. And you are the only one left. You will be answering my questions if you ever want to see your family again. Do we understand each other? I'll answer your questions, Agent, if you answer mine. I don't answer to you. Then just one. Do you believe in ghosts? Quiet! This is no time for games, Tate. You're facing serious charges. You may have survived, but this could still end with you losing your life. Do you understand? You want answers? I'm trying to give them to you. Shut up and listen. All right. Then tell us, what does the last voyage of the landing shuttle Polis have to do with ghosts? Everything. It has everything to do with it. We spent years preparing for this mission. They only picked the best for the Polis crew and trained us rigorously for Earth's first landing on the surface of Mars. We never truly knew what to expect, but we were trained to be primed for anything. Somehow, we still weren't prepared for what transpired. Go on, Tate. Tell us what happened. The voyage was normal. Even when we broke Mars's atmosphere, we landed safely with no complications. I sat on the flight deck for an hour after the touchdown, while the mission specialist deboarded and started gathering specimens from the red planet's surface. As a flight engineer, there were very few circumstances that allowed me to leave Polis's interior. There were only 5 of us. While our commander and the 3 science pilots made history, I remained stoically on board. I was a dedicated and determined soldier. I didn't mind being left with the ship. To be honest, it's probably what saved my life. I watched their work through the ship's exterior cameras. The commander kept in constant contact and provided me with updates throughout. Even from my seat in the cockpit, the view of Mars was incredible, and I was fulfilling a childhood dream. Until the commander made a discovery. There were signs of life. On the harsh terrain, our commander found what appeared to be a pre-existing work site, much like our own. When he described it, he sounded almost scared. He was the most seasoned of us, so naturally his fear infected us all. I found myself shuffling through feeds until I found a camera view that was looking directly over where the ground crew had moved. The commander was standing near a series of deteriorated shelves and miscellaneous instruments, just like the ones we brought to Mars ourselves. While he described the scene to me, I finally noticed that there was something wrong with the camera's image. There was 5 astronauts standing around the lab's remain. Not 4, 5. Had your crew fully recovered from flight? Had the physician tested all of your vitals? Are you sure of... Yes, Agent. I'm sure of what I saw. There was an astronaut standing behind the science pilots. He was not one of our crew, but he was wearing our uniform. I took so much time making sure that I was truly seeing him that I waited too long to say anything. He extended his arms and pulled our physician to the ground. I watched in horror, when in a matter of minutes, the other astronauts struggled to fix his suit while he suffocated to death. To death? Yes. Despite all of our training, the doctor died. When they pulled his corpse on board, his skin was purple and swollen. It was like he exploded from the inside. I didn't know how to tell the others about the man I saw sabotage his suit. So I tried to show them. You played back the tape. We all gathered around the screen. I got sick all over myself watching the physician claw at his helmet. The other science pilots rushed to the lavatories while all life extinguished from him. Our commander kept the contents of his stomach down and ordered that I play it back again. And what did he see? He ordered me not to tell the others, and he made me focus on the screen and see for myself. The astronaut that killed our doctor. His face was wrong. It was purple, swollen. He couldn't have been alive like that. He looked just like the dead man in our med bay. The commander and I never said it, but something in me knew. Knew what? That the astronaut that killed the doc was dead. Maybe the commander and I would have eventually admitted it to one another, but we didn't have time. We looked up and saw something else. A massive wall of rolling dust and debris was heading our way. Unlike the dead saboteur, this is something we were prepared for. In the event of a Martian dust storm, we were to evacuate the planet's surface until it was deemed safe to approach. But the commander was not ready to leave. Quiet! And what did the commander do? He couldn't wait for an answer. He told me that if anything went wrong, to immediately abort the mission and head home. I tried to talk him out of it, but nothing would change his mind. He ordered one of the other pilots to accompany him. They got back in their suits and connected themselves to the ship's tow wrench. The commander told me no matter what, the other officer and myself were to remain inside. The scientist left on board with me remained in her suit and monitored the tether. She stayed in the decompression chamber, near the hatch, to quickly let the others back inside. The commander and the other pilot went into the dust storm. His reports back were distorted and filled with static, but I understood everything that happened next. He went back to where the dead man sabotaged the doc's suit. He searched the site and the dirt surrounding it until he found something. Buried in the dirt from the storms and time was a weathered uniform of a crew member of the landing craft Polis. Within the suit were several human bones that were almost completely deteriorated. The commander ordered his co-pilot to immediately return, but then there was all the screaming. The commander reported 2 rogue astronauts in the storm. They were standing next to the tow lines. He told us to reel them back inside. Reel us in! Reel us in! The strange astronauts were touching the lines. The inside of their helmets were filled with blood and flesh, but he couldn't see their faces. They didn't have any. They ripped the lines apart and the commander and the pilot were crying. They were screaming until their voices drifted away and we couldn't hear them anymore. I started the flight sequence. I ordered the other scientist left inside to come back to the cockpit, but she wasn't responding. I could hear the echo in the ship. I left the flight deck and ran to the hatch. She was there, locked inside the decompression chamber, pressing a million buttons, trying to come back inside. An astronaut was standing behind her. He didn't have a face. I stared into the empty shell of blood and guts and watched while the hatch opened, and both the science pilot and the ghost were sucked into a vacuum created by the Martian dust storm. They were all gone. It was like a nightmare. I wasn't waking up, but I refused to die with them. I ran back to the cockpit, strapped myself in, and finished the sequence to come home. When I finally breached Mars's atmosphere, I looked back towards the surface. The storm was massive from space. It looked like a swirling inferno of fire and wind. I imagined the others' bodies swirling in the chaos. I cried for them. I didn't stop crying until I saw Earth again. I smiled, thinking I had finally made it back home. But now I know. You're never gonna let me out of here. Why do you think that, Flight Engineer Tate? If what you say is true, And you didn't kill your fellow astronauts. Why wouldn't we let you go home? You're right, Agent. I didn't kill them. But I know too much. I know that they didn't tell us the truth. I know they didn't tell anyone. This was the second flight of the Polis. The country's unpreparedness cost the lives of several brave men and women in the original voyage. How many of them were there, by the way? On the Polis's first flight? 4. There were 4. Maybe that's why I'm still alive. There wasn't a ghost left to kill me. They already got their retribution. Now that everything's out in the open, Tate, why not be honest with me? Why not tell me what really happened to your fellows? We both know that Ghost did not kill them. You're right, Agent Keynes. Ghost didn't kill the men and women of either crew. You assholes did.